Welcome to the very first episode of the Typical Star Wars podcast. We're so hyped that you guys are here. We're your hosts. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Elisha. And our schedule has changed just a little bit from what we originally planned. We're going to be having 2 episodes of Mandalorian each week for about 2 weeks just to catch up because we're a little bit behind. So we're going to be doing, on Mondays, we're going to have a Mandalorian episode breakdown. On Wednesdays, we've been doing character breakdowns, legends, and comics and covering all sorts of stuff within that area. And then on Saturdays, we're going to be doing another Mandalorian episode, like I said, just for about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And then once we get caught up a little bit, we're going to go ahead and switch back to our original schedule, which is going to be a Mandalorian season 2 and season 1 on Mondays. Wednesdays, character breakdowns, comics, and legends. So that's going to stay the same. And then on Saturdays, instead of another Mandalorian episode, we're going to be doing Rebels and Clone Wars. Now that you're all caught up, let's go ahead and get started with today's episode.
All right, so Mandalorian season 2, episode 1, the Cobb Vanth episode. Everyone was super looking forward to this episode, obviously. A lot of hype put into it. One of the, if not the longest episodes we've had of Mandalorian so
this
far,
one was
right?
54 minutes, I believe, right? It was longer than most of the other ones. It was
I think
almost
entire runtime was like 57 with credits and stuff.
Yeah, it was honestly probably one of my favorite episodes from season 2. One of the things I want to talk about is the planet and like the
first
how.
one?
Yeah, no, season 2, episode 1. The planet
right.
where in the beginning where he starts off and he's walking down the alleyway and it's all lit up. And then you see like the wolf's eyes in the background. You know?
So what do you think those were?
I'm not sure. We don't really see them, but what I really like is how they can't go in the light.
Yeah, that's
like as the episode progresses, you only see them in the shadows, and then when he slings up the guy and then he shuts out the light, you see all the wolves like just swarm, which I thought that was really cool.
It was definitely some cool visuals, but let's back it up a bit. So obviously, man goes. We see the wolves. All the graffiti on the walls is sick.
Mm-hmm. Like
we see the wills.
We see the wills. We see the like snowtroopers and stormtrooper heads like crossed off in X's, kind of showing like this world is kind of in anarchy and how without like order, it's kind of gone all crazy and everything's dirty and graffitied everywhere. It's a little less under control, which I thought was really cool to show how like without some form of order, some planets probably descended a bit,
So yeah, that's definitely a super interesting idea I had as well, only I didn't see it so soon. I saw it more on Tatooine, which we'll talk about later, but like how the Empire was obviously an empire. It was a tyrannical empire, but there was more order with the Empire than there was and will be with the New Republic.
Yeah, because they don't really have it under control. It's still a war, and they're focusing so much on trying to quote unquote liberate the people that they're forgetting to take care of them, which we do see further out throughout the season. One of the things I also want to talk about was the vibroblades. We see those again. We're starting to see them a lot more. Like we've never seen it in Star Wars, and then once Mandalorian kind of introduced it a bit, you see them everywhere. With the gladiators in the ring, you see the 2 pig guys fighting with vibro like axes, which I thought was really cool.
And you never thought like we knew that there was vibro blades, but we didn't really think about that it was in other melee weapons as well.
Mm-hmm.
Melee,
like
I don't know how you want to pronounce it.
How many people use them, like it was clearly more everywhere, I guess I want to say. But like it would make sense why they're using it, because like the vibro blade does so much more damage than anything else they could use. Because like it just vibrates as you like attack, which is cool.
It adds that Star Wars-y feel. Like, if it was just a normal blade, it'd be like, okay, so
that's cool.
So what makes that cool? But and it was commonplace.
Throwing a dash of Star Wars and they vibrate. Wow.
Exactly. Though in some books, like there was this one book I was reading that the guy just had it was actually a circular knife, I guess, but so it still had that flair to it, but it's interesting. Like, I don't know, that was a tangent.
No, it was really cool to say. I like that. And then when he like goes in, he's talking to the guy, how like everybody wants the armor, and he's talking to him. He's like, do you gamble? And then the guy's like, Mandalorian's like, no, I don't gamble. And the guy's like, just put up your armor. Let's gamble, because everybody wants the armor because it's so rare. And with like the Empire wiping out most of the Mandalorians, you don't see much of it.
No, it's interesting to see how noticeable it is to, I guess, the general public of Star Wars.
Yeah. And also how like they want the armor, but they seem to underestimate the person wearing it, like almost every time.
That is also interesting. Though we obviously, Gorkresh says he's hunted it down and taken it off the corpses of the Mandalorians, but he's never faced one.
Yeah, you know, and it's
it
like
seems.
Well, that's what we hear him say, but like, I don't think he's gonna be the kind of guy to take on a bunch of Mandalorians.
His goons.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they probably didn't even make it. They probably died. But like, it's cool because they all, you know, expect like, oh, you know, he's not gonna be able to fend for himself, and then you just see him take everybody out. And my favorite thing was he was like, I thought you said you wouldn't gamble, and he said,
if it can be avoided or something. Mando said that.
I thought you.
Something along those lines.
He was like, he said something about gambling, and he said, I thought you weren't a gambler, or he took that. He said something about Mandalorian being a gambler, and the thing is, Mandalorian's like, I'm not a gambler, I don't gamble, because there's no point in gambling. He's gonna win.
Yeah, he's
gonna take him out.
Has a chance. He knows his odds. Like in the first season, we see him. It's 4 against 1, Mando. We have you. I like those odds.
I like those odds, you know. And then again, we see the exact same thing. He's like, they all pull up, and then he's like, I thought you weren't a gambler. He's like, I'm not, because there's no gamble. He's gonna walk it out. They're totally fine.
And he does. The other thing, I was watching this video. I don't know who it was by, but they talked about how Mandalorian's armor is almost an offensive weapon in and of itself. Like we see the guy punch him in the helmet, which whips Mando's head back and then into the other guy.
Yeah, and then Mandalorian uses the helmet again as like a bat and just smacks the guy in the face.
Like a walking tank.
Exactly. It's cool. And then when the Cyclops guy was like talking about a Mandalorian, he wasn't talking about, well, spoilers for the end here. He wasn't talking about Boba Fett. He was talking about vanth.
Yeah.
Which goes to show that he doesn't really know his Mandalorians that well, because that wasn't a Mandalorian. All he saw was the armor, and that's it. He just assumed, oh, you got armor, you're a Mandalorian. Which makes sense, but like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we see him go to Tatooine, and we start to see that Mandalorian's kind of coming out of his shell with the droids. Like when he gets to Tatooine, we see that he talks to the I forgot her name, but the curly haired lady.
I know. I was totally gonna remember her name, and I wrote down in my notes the mechanic lady.
Mechanic lady. You know who we're talking about. And then he lets the droids take care of his ship, which means he's like moving past his PTSD that he dealt with during the Clone Wars, because you see like that obviously traumatized him. But he's
True,
like,
but the other thing is, it's not so much that I guess he is getting past his traumatization, but it's also that he's seeing that droids can have a heart after IG-11's sacrifice. Yeah,
that too. Like that's probably one of the, I was going to mention that's probably one of the main reasons he started to come out of his show, because he's like, it's not that they're inherently, it's the people behind it that make them evil, you know? Like the programming behind it that makes it evil. It's not, because you saw that Quill, the little pig guy, did the same thing, but he made him like a nurse droid, and he was kind and had a heart, even though it's not alive.
Exactly.
And then when we see that Mandalorian goes to Mos Pelgo, I liked how it kind of reminded me of the village in Solo. You know, when they go to like to get the coaxium,
the refinery?
Yeah, it reminded me of that village. I don't know why, but it just like, it had that kind of vibe to it, where it was just like desolate,
random,
just
place.
like, yeah, just
no one knows about,
dirty,
like,
dusty. Funny. Nobody really knows about it. Yeah, I thought that was cool.
It's an interesting thought. Like, obviously, we don't have intergalactic travel yet, but do you think we would, like, we have small towns, right? And there's just these off random small towns you drive through. Do you think they would get smaller with interstellar travel? Like, we see small towns on each planet, but are they smaller because you can go to so many places? And how many people stay on their home planet never leaving?
Probably a lot.
I would
Probably
agree.
Because if you live in one of those small towns, it's going to be hard to be able to leave it, you know? Like,
even the big towns, I mean, like if you live on Coruscant, I mean, if you were like high end on the upper level in Coruscant, you'd probably visit Banking Clan, stuff like that, which is on different planets. But
like, your home base is always going to be Coruscant.
Yeah.
I feel like it depends, because you've got the people, like if you're on a small town and if you had the chance to do that, they probably would. You know, if they had the chance to just up and leave, they probably would, because maybe they'd find opportunities like refugees. They'd find a better place and somewhere to start off a better life. You know? And then even with the bigger cities, maybe they won't stay. Maybe they think the rest of the galaxy is disgusting and gross, and this is the best place for me because, oh, it's so pish posh. You know?
It could, yeah, that's definitely an option I could see.
Yeah. And then, so he gets to Mos Pelgo, right? And everybody's looking around. And then he pulls up and he's talking to the bar dude. And he's like, I'm looking for a Mandalorian. He's like, oh, what? And then he's like, somebody that looks like me. And then they're like, oh, you mean the Marshal? And it was funny because when I first saw the episode, I got so excited because I was like, I know exactly who that is. That's Cobb Vanth. And then all of a sudden you see this guy standing in the doorway. And I'm going to be 100% honest. It was funny because he looks so much more goofy because the armor didn't fit him. And I think that was a really good choice to have because it's not his armor, it's Boba Fett's armor.
Exactly. But I love that small detail. Like
it's too small. Yeah.
Obviously Boba Fett's shorter and stockier, like the clones were, whereas Cobb Vanth is tall and kind of lanky.
Yeah.
But I want to back it up a little bit. In this episode, I love all of the comparisons or visuals of like an old spaghetti western. He rides into the town looking both ways at a one-lane town, one-street town, pulls his horse up to the cantina saloon, walks in,
drink place,
and then drink place, yes, and then obviously there was that cameo by remind me of his name.
Sam Witwer?
Sam Witwer, yeah.
That actually wasn't him. A lot of people thought it was. Yeah, a lot of people thought it was him, but I saw a thing. It wasn't him. A lot of people were confusing it, and Sam was like, "Yo, that wasn't me, you guys."
We've been misled.
I know. That's what I was thinking too, because I was seeing that episode. I was like, "Oh, that was Sam Witwer," because it looked like him, but it also kind of didn't. So I was like, maybe they just changed up his look a bit. And then I was going through.
It just had long hair.
Yeah, I thought that was it, but then I was like, his face doesn't quite match. And then I saw the tweet or whatever he did, and I was like, that wasn't him, which I didn't know about. But yeah, I thought it was a really cool detail how the armor just didn't fit him. Like it was, you could see his chin poking through, his chest plate doesn't even cover. It was just funny. I was like, it was still so cool to see the armor though, because I was like, oh my gosh, you recognize that, and that means that it just everything connected, and I just
it was
so exciting.
I love the attention to detail on the armor. It wasn't like obviously the people at Mandalorian know what they're doing. They've made an amazing series, but the props are astounding. But the pitting and the paint peeling on the armor was just
you could tell it was old and damaged.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I want to bring that up later. But it's not important right now. So when he walks in, it was kind of weird to see him go Weequay, 2 snorts of spotchka, right?
Yeah,
it was weird
drink.
that he referred to him as his species, right? So I was thinking on that. And in the spaghetti westerns you see, they never walk in and are like, hey Daniel, 2 shots of whiskey. They're like, barkeep, whiskey. Yeah. So it was...
That was cool to see it. And then I like how Mandalorian was kind of confused over the drink. If this is a Mandalorian, why is he going to drink with me? You can't take off your helmet. And then you could totally see it because the moment Cobb Vanth takes off the helmet, and even that entire time, he's like, let's drink.
Shook.
You could tell, which is so amazingly done by Pedro Pascal, because you don't see his face, but in his body language, you could tell he's confused. And then when he takes off the helmet, it's more confusion, kind of mixed with anger at where did you get that? And then Cobb Vanth realizes you're probably not happy that I have this. I liked to see that. I like to see how aware Cobb Vanth was of almost he was aware of the Mandalorian culture after living on this super random planet,
out of the way, doesn't even exist on the maps anywhere anymore, Mos Pelgo. But he knew that the Mandalorian would not be
happy that just some strangers got their armor.
And he said later in the episode, or was it then, return it to its ancestral...
No, that was later. Yeah.
That was later, yeah. owners, which is interesting that he knows that they're like we see in Rebels that they're passed down through many generations.
Yeah, and it's just reforged over and over again. But it's a different story with Boba Fett. Boba Fett's he's a little more complex, and we'll talk about that on a different day. I do want to cover that. But one of the things I liked was like they're about to do the fight, right? They're about to do the old Western duel, and they switch between the faces, and I was like, it's so Western, and I love it because
That's something I absolutely love about this episode.
that's what I love about Mandalorian in general, is because one of my favorite things was that Dave Filoni and what was the other guy's name?
Jon Favreau. One of my favorite things that they said in like the Mandalorian documentaries, if you haven't seen those, go watch them because they're awesome. But one of the things that they said is they were like, when we were making the show, we never wanted to go off of what George did. Like, obviously that's important to do, but we never wanted to be inspired by just Star Wars. We wanted to be inspired by what inspired Star Wars, and a lot of that was old westerns and stuff like that, the older movies. And you see that so heavily in this, like between the back and forth shots and the hand above the blasters, like ready to go, and then all of a sudden the shaking. You know, you see the shaking, and then Vanth could totally take advantage of the confusion and shoot Mandalorian, but he decides to be exactly what he is, which is the marshal. He puts his finger up and he goes outside because later in the episode he knows about the crate dragon. Like it's obviously gone through and it's caused some trouble for them before, so he's not going to be like, oh, what's this rumbling? He's going to make sure that his people are okay, which I thought was really cool because it goes to show that he's actually a good marshal. Exactly. Another thing that I liked was that Cobb Vanth had this dry, it wasn't even dry humor, it was just funny and kind. Like he wasn't like this totally no, that's not the word I'm looking for, just stone cold bitter marshal. He had like so much character to him. That what made him such a great character in the show. It made him
likable. Yeah, I wasn't really expecting that because from what I know, I didn't think of him as that kind of a person, and then we see it and it was like, that was really, really cool. And then we see later on the bikes when they go out further to where were they going?
They were going to the crate dragon.
The crate dragon, because he knows where it lives, right? So they're going out, and then we see the pod racer engine, which from what I believe, that was Anakin's pod racer engine, which I thought was a really cool callback.
Yeah,
and it's like, how did he get that?
I've seen a lot of different views on that it was either like based off the same model, or that it was his, but there's a few discrepancies I see with it being a similar model. Is that on Tatooine in episode 1, right? Phantom Menace. Yeah. We see like, I don't know, 12 different I almost said different twice, I don't know why. Anyways, different types of pod racers, and none of them are similar to each other. I mean, they obviously have the same overall concept, but they're not close in design. So it makes more sense that it would be Anakin's on a planet where everything is salvaged, reused, repurposed into something different, whereas it's not like Coruscant where you can go buy the same model at the pod racer store. I don't know. Come on, honey, we're going down to the pod racer store. Get your first pod racer.
I gotta go get a pod racer. Let's go. I mean, even if it wasn't Anakin's, I still think it's cool that they're using a pod racer engine as like a bike that he's modified, you know? And then we're gonna be talking. And then in the next episode, we're going to be covering a whole like Cobb Vanth breakdown over the legends and comics. And in the books, we see him in Aftermath. But real quick, I just want to say that his backstory, because on the other bike, he starts talking about the backstory. And the backstory is kind of the same between legends and what we see in live action. I really appreciate that because you see them drawing in more stuff from legends. And there's a lot of cool stuff in legends that they bring in, and it's awesome. And anyways, we're going to talk about that in a later date. But
yes, so definitely... It's my turn. Definitely make sure to check out our Legends podcast we're going to be doing on this. It's going to tie into Boba Fett and Cobb Vanth, where he came from, backstory, all the things that tie in that aren't canon right now, but as Elisha said, we've seen them pulling in so much Legend stuff into this season. Don't want to give anything away, but
that's going to be coming out
there's some
Wednesday.
Crazy Legend stuff.
Yeah, we're really excited to show you guys that. And then what I was saying was when he's talking about his backstory, right? We see the Death Star blowing up and how everybody was like, oh, so exciting, like, oh, the Empire's gone. But the downfall with that is immediately after that happens, literally the same night, you see the I forgot their name.
Mining
The
collective?
mining collective. They come in and they just wipe everybody out because they take control. Just instantly. They come out of nowhere because the second the Empire is quote unquote gone, it's a vacuum. Everybody's going to be calling for some form of power because, oh, the Empire's gone. Let's go.
Which begs the question, what happened to all the stormtroopers? Because they were probably still on Tatooine. They didn't just poof into dust. They were probably still there.
I don't think that they really were like stationed there. I mean, Mos Pelgo is tiny. Like, there's really not much. So I feel like it kind of...
No, true. I see. It could definitely... Mos Pelgo out there in the middle of nowhere was an easier target than Tatooine. But we see Mechanic Lady, that's her new name, mentioned that after the Empire fell, she wouldn't go outside of the walls of even Tatooine.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to mention later regarding the Empire's vacuum they left and how it was taken. It was some order, if not a tyrannical order.
Yeah, let's keep it. Let's talk about that right now because I brought it up. Let's do it. And how quickly things descended. Because without order, just boom, everything goes crazy. And even if it was a tyrannical, it wasn't done perfectly. And we see a lot of that in Rebels of how harshly it affected the people. But without that form of protection, because people did fear the Empire. And it kind of kept the bad guys in place because they knew if they go against them, they're going to get wiped out.
True. With that note on the bad guys being a little bit more cautious during the Empire, Solo is taking place during the Empire, right? But we see that Crimson Dawn, ran by Darth Maul, is a very prominent crime syndicate. And so it was interesting to see this powerful crime syndicate running under the Empire.
Yeah. The thing is,
as we know, Darth Maul obviously wasn't the best of friends with Palpatine either. So
yeah. But who knows? But let's save that for another day too, because that's definitely a huge topic. We could 100%
that is definitely
cover.
A giant topic.
Yeah, we could just totally cover Crimson Dawn and Darth Maul and all of that. That would be really, really cool.
So you guys stay tuned for all this awesome stuff we're going to talk about later.
There's exciting stuff in the future. Come on.
Could be fun.
Also, go check us out on Instagram at The Typical Star Wars on Instagram.
At The Typical Star Wars Podcast.
The Typical Star Wars Podcast.
You're like, go check us out at The Typical Star Wars.
Go check us out on Instagram at The Typical Star Wars on Instagram. I totally froze there. My bad. Anyways, and then one of my favorite parts is when you see him like walking through the desert, you see he has the ice cream prop.
The ice cream bucket, yes.
Or the ice cream maker. A lot of people don't know this, but it's like a running joke in Star Wars where in The Empire Strikes Back, when they're on Cloud City, there's a guy just running with this prop. But it was actually an ice cream machine that it was like I don't remember what part of it, but it was like some form of a part of an ice cream machine. And this guy's just running with it. And it's showing up was it in Rogue One as well? I think it was in Rogue One.
I don't know, probably.
I don't remember, and then in Star Wars Celebration you see people dress up as this one guy just running down the hall with his ice cream machine, and then it showed up again there, and I just started laughing when I saw it because I was like, oh my gosh, it's the ice cream machine.
It's so fun to watch the old movies and see all these random crazy props they came up with that George Lucas just threw in there. Like, I have no recollection of when I saw this, but I watched the video.
Let's use it.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure I watched this video in science class.
Oh, nice.
Like years ago in middle school, and they had these two, stadium tubes that you'd yell into at a football game. And strung in between them was a slinky, essentially, like a really big slinky. And when they hit the slinky, it made the lightsaber noise. That's how they made the lightsaber noise in the original trilogy.
That is cool. I did not know about that.
Learn something new every day.
Hey, there you go. That's what happens when you tune in the Typical Star Wars Podcast on YouTube. Check us out.
Anyways, yes, the ice cream bucket. We saw it in season 1 too, and it was discussed then. It was cool to see how this random
the
ice
car.
Exactly.
I forgot about that.
Random ice cream bucket from original trilogy has transferred into a key component for every season so far. Beskar was in the ice cream bucket.
And the
The
crystal,
the purple
Silicrack.
crystals,
the purple crystal things.
the purple crystals he stole were in the ice cream bucket, which then allowed him to save Mos Pelgo.
And buy the armor. And then one of the things I wanted to talk about was when he's in the fortress with the Jawas, you see the Jawas could easily just kill him, take the crystals, that's it.
Yes, this is a point I really wanted to talk about.
There's a form of respect with the Jawas. They're like, we have to trade. Like, I'm not just gonna take these for you and trade you something else. We see him say, like, they offered me their best stuff for these crystals, which were obviously priceless. So they gave me the best stuff, and then he ended up buying the armor with it, which obviously they didn't know what it was.
No, this brings up a lot. This brings up a lot of different points. First, in was it season 1 or season? No, it was season 1 because this is episode 1. Sorry, season 1, when Mandalorian was, it was like episode 2, I think, when his ship gets destroyed by the Jawas.
Yeah.
The difference between like the Jawas trading for something, but then they would take apart his ship. I'm thinking it was because they didn't see him around, so they're like,
probably
free
like
ship.
salvage it. Yeah.
Yeah, but since he's there, they have this code of trade, which I thought was really cool. Like,
yeah.
The other thing I love about Mandalorian is how deep it's diving into these obscure creatures that we never knew stories about in the original trilogy, prequels, sequels, like all the mainstream movies.
Yeah.
They were just creatures that
like
pushed the plot
people.
line.
Yeah. Like, we never really saw much of the Sand People, and then in Mandalorian, it's made them like one of the.
It's given them a real story, a real
like a people. It's made them
culture.
Less of like, oh, they're just these savage people, which they are, but it also is established that they're like, they're more than that a bit.
Exactly.
They're more complicated.
They were species, a sentient species that has families and all this stuff, which makes it more tragic when Anakin kills not just the men, but the women
and the children as well.
And the children too. So anyways, what I was saying was, later in the episode, he says, when he's trying to convince the people to fight with the Sand People, he says they are brutal, but so's the desert, the Dune Sea. And I felt like that was a comparison between the Sand People, the Tusken Raiders, and Mandalorians, because they're both brutal people living in a brutal society. So
they have to
survive, they have to be, and that's why he might get along with them so well and speak the language.
Yeah. And then when he sees the little, he goes, they're in the canyon, and then they hear the howl, right? They're all like on alert. And then I forgot the name, but they're the little lizard dog things that come out, right?
They're not very little, Elisha.
They're not
really
very
big.
little. My bad. They're pretty big, but you know what I'm trying to say.
I was trying to think of the name of it. They're like,
I can't remember for the life of me.
Hound something.
I forgot. But we see them used in Clone Wars. Those are like, they're like the dogs that are used by like, on the Coruscant Guard. We see them like used as like canines almost.
Yeah, like a canine unit.
Which was pretty cool because the Sand People use them kind of the same way.
Exactly.
I kind of like to see that. That was pretty cool.
Like they're pets, they're their friends.
Yeah. And like we see when he's like brushing the bantha's mouth, the big yak thing, he's brushing like its teeth. Like
massives.
They may be brutal. Massives, that's what they're called.
Massives.
But when he see like the Tusken Raider brushing the bantha, the big yak things like teeth, it shows that they may be brutal and stuff, but they actually care about everybody within the tribe.
Yeah. So this is a super small detail that probably has it's no importance, but when he was cleaning the bantha's teeth, they moved a little bit, and I just found that kind of weird. I was like, oh, that one moved. That one moved too.
Oh no.
But anyways, okay. Now this is something you didn't necessarily disagree with me in the past, but you were skeptical. The first time, okay, we've obviously skipped ahead a lot because
was it about boba?
Exactly.
I have that saved for the end. I did.
Okay. Are we going to talk about it now?
No, I want to talk about it later.
Okay, we'll talk about it at the end.
Yeah. One of the things that was cool was when you like when you think of the Sand People, all you really think is the like the screaming that they do, right?
Yeah, that was a terrible impersonation, but yeah.
I'm sorry, we can cut that out in post, right?
No.
Oh,
that has to stay in. It was funny.
They're when we think of the sand people, you never really think of them as like people who communicate. You just think of like the screaming they do, right? But
Yeah.
when they're with Mando, they're doing sign language, and you see that constantly. Like it's mixed with some sounds, but they're always doing some form of sign language to communicate, which makes me think that the screaming they do isn't really a form of communication among them. It's more of like a, I don't know, like a battle cry.
I don't know. We definitely see it more as a battle cry, especially in the movies. But I don't know. I don't feel like sign language is their main
way of communication.
Way of communication. Like, it's definitely a big part, but I think the grunts and stuff have meanings.
Have meaning as well. Yeah, because Mando was doing the exact same thing. He was going like, I'm gonna stop with the impersonations. No, I'm sorry.
Keep going.
No. I'm sorry. Nobody needs to hear that. We're enough of that.
I don't know why I sound like Tarzan when I do it.
Okay,
that was better.
Stop. No, we're done.
Okay.
We're done.
Seriousness. This is a professional podcast.
Yeah, no, we're amazing. And then when they go to see like the hideout, right, where the great dragon sleeps, like the cave, they're like, what was there before? And it was an abandoned sarlacc pit, and they're like, nothing can eat a sarlacc. And he's like, or what? Nothing, you can't get rid of a sarlacc. He's like, not unless you eat the sarlacc. And that brings back the Qui-Gon Jinn saying, "If there's always a bigger fish," and I thought that was a cool
yeah, I
detail.
didn't think about that. I like the symmetry, the callback.
Yeah, one of the things I want to talk about is the sand, because I am confused about that. Because in the beginning, you hear Cobb Vanth, and he's like, when Mandalorian's like, "Yeah, I'll help you kill a crate dragon. I'll get my ship. I'll fly above. I'll use the bantha as bait, and then we'll kill it." And then Cobb Vanth's like, "No, you can't do that. It's gonna sense the vibrations." But the thing is, it's sand. Vibrations don't travel that well through sand. Am I right there? Because sand is constantly in motion. It's not a solid, so it's not going to travel that well. It's more of like it's not really in a solid state,
Okay, I might know my Star Wars politics better than my normal politics, but not my geology.
Okay, my bad.
I'm kind of at a loss here.
That isn't even Star Wars geology.
Interesting idea.
It's just normal science. I think I'm
said
stupid.
I
though.
just said geology. I wasn't like my Star Wars geology. Anyways,
geology. But
I'm pretty good at that actually, but with the sand.
With the whole vibration thing, it was funny because you see him put the bantha up, and then the guy, screams, and then he runs away. But then you see that the crate dragon goes for him rather than the bantha, and that kind of brings back the vibration thing, because he was setting off vibrations by running away. The bantha was completely still.
Yeah. The other thing I thought was
cool.
Regarding the ship thing. Remember when we said we're gonna go in a chronological order for this episode?
Yeah, we're a bit.
We threw that out the window.
It's all right.
Anyways, I didn't understand why he couldn't
fly
way high. So, I guess sound waves travel until they hit something, so it wouldn't really matter. But okay.
No, awkward silence. It was, and then I liked the old Western kind of like trope where it's like, oh, you got to train the village, and you see all the villagers like getting ready and gearing up, and we saw that again in season 1, which we'll talk about in a way later date. But it brings back the old Western kind of feel where it's like, oh, they got to train the village because they got to go on some form of mission, or they got to protect their town, which I thought was cool.
And the callback to how the Tusken Raiders travel that Ben Kenobi said in A New Hope, when that he knew that the Jawas had been attacked, and Luke said it could have been the Tusken Raiders, and then Obi-Wan said, no, look at the tracks. Tuskens travel in a single line to hide their numbers.
Yeah,
these tracks all over the place, and we see them traveling in a line, which was
really, that was cool. I didn't notice that. I totally forgot about that. That's cool, because like you see them in a line. It's like ninjas, where they like copy each other's footprints to hide their numbers. That's cool. I never realized that. And then the crate, I don't know why, but the crate dragon being like, they were like, oh, you can't, the only weak spot on the crate dragon is the belly, like under. And that for
The
some reason
belly of the
reminded
beast.
the belly of the beast. It reminded me of like an armadillo. You know, because like the it's got like the armor shell, but the only thing that's weak is the stomach because that's not armored. I
Not
don't
gonna lie,
know.
that's definitely a giant Star
Armor.
Wars beast that eats people for breakfast when he's an armadillo.
Definitely.
Definitely.
And then what do you got?
Uh, put me on the spot.
Armadillo.
Armadillo. Anyways, okay. Since we're going with weaknesses of the Krayt Dragon, at the end when Cobb and Mando fly towards it, which is something I want to
Oh yeah, we'll talk
talk
about that
about
too.
when we get to that. When he's shooting his pulse rifle at it, obviously we saw him straight up disintegrate some Jawas, and we know that the Krayt Dragon has some extremely tough
Plating.
armor.
Yeah.
But I still feel like since it was a pulse rifle, it would have taken bits of it off. But we don't see it do any of that, and I don't know why they didn't shoot in the eye of the ball.
Work.
Yeah, but let's back up. Where were okay? Let's back up all the way back to the Massifs, because that's about where.
No, we
kind of just went off tangent.
Then they get to the Massives, they go, and then they start talking to the Sand People, which is what I was talking about with the sign language.
Okay.
Oh, the weird little egg thing, and like the breaking tradition, and how that was like, this is rude. You need to drink that.
He says, the Tusken Raider guy says, "You steal our water and then offend us by not drinking the water we give you," something like that. So what was in the gourd thing? Was it water? Was it juice? Was it?
Want to assume
what was it?
I want to assume it's like. First off, it reminded me of like a burnt pumpkin.
Yeah, pretty much.
I thought that was funny.
Burnt pumpkin soup.
Burnt pumpkin soup. That's what it was. Let's just say that's what it is. Burnt pumpkin soup. That's the nectar of the gods.
Raiders.
The Tusken Raiders.
What is it called? Ritualistic drink. Burnt pumpkin soup.
Burnt pumpkin soup.
This podcast is not canon. Don't sue us.
Don't sue us.
I don't know.
And then we see they go back to the village, and Mandalorian's like, "Oh, I volunteered your village." And vanth is like, "You did what?"
Yeah.
Like you totally
okay, so the quote unquote little rock things, right? When he's like talking about how it's to scale.
Yeah.
I'm confused regarding this because obviously we see the sand around the model, but we never see rocks like that anywhere on Tatooine. They looked more like seeds to me than rocks. It's not a big thing.
Once he sprinkles to be the quote unquote
exactly.
people.
It just didn't look like rocks to me. It looked like seeds or.
It probably was. Cause some of them were green. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they were weird.
Yeah, they were weird, man. And then they go back, and then like I said, the whole like, "Oh, we gotta protect the village" trope. I thought it was cool how they were like, "Oh, you know a Mandalorian and how they're so good at killing. Well, he's gonna help us." And then when all the Tusken Raiders ride in on the bantha with the straight line, like you talked about, they get there, and then you see like the trust hasn't really formed yet. You know, because you know that there's going to be alliance, and once this is over, it's obviously going to build it, and they're not going to fight anymore because, well, Tusken Raiders may be brutal, like he said, they may be brutal, they may be savages and all that stuff, but they keep their promise, they keep their word.
Yeah, true. And when the one guy drops the bomb, you see how high tensions are working with what's essentially their enemy for many years.
Yeah. Like, are you trying to kill us? You stupid! You're doing this on purpose. You know,
and it's interesting to see Cobb and Mando just standing there to the side, overseeing their almost two separate groups. Whereas Cobb is kind and compassionate, funny type of guy with the village. Mando, we don't really see his humor is bone dry and
non-existent.
It's almost like I don't know. It's just. Non-existent, and he's lived a very brutal life of a bounty hunter. His parents died, all that stuff. So you see, like, they're two different sects trying to have overseeing their different groups, whereas the leaders are almost friends by that point.
Yeah,
at least good acquaintances, comrades, if you will.
And then they go and they fight the beast. I thought it was cool how they had like Go ahead.
When they all leave Mos Pelgo, this is one of my favorite scenes in the entire episode. We see all the big banthas loaded with some crossbows I want to talk about.
That's what I was
First
talking. That's what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
Okay, we'll bring that up after. We see the big banthas with bombs, the raiders, the village people, and then we see Mando and Cobb Vanth riding their speeders along with essentially the wagon train, with the speeders being the horses as the outriders in a western. I loved it.
Yeah. I
Okay,
thought that was
the
cool.
crossbows.
The crossbows. What did they think I was gonna do?
Okay, this is
being
a very
completely honest.
This is weird to me because few things. One, Tusken Raiders have these random giant crossbows just out of the blue.
Yeah.
So now in a later shot, we see that the tips of them are terribly weathered or worn, like they've used them a lot. And what would they use them for? Which is weird. It's like, have they tried to attack the Krayt Dragon with this before?
It's possible. That's probably why they're using it again, because
That's what I
maybe
would
it's
think.
proven effective before. Maybe not.
Was it?
I don't know. Probably not. We don't see it to be too effective.
I don't know. I guess we kind of saw it be slightly effective. I mean, you know those two Tusken Raiders that just like clung to the rope for dear life as they got
why didn't you
drugged
just
towards
let
their
go?
imminent doom?
Yeah.
Or the guy that at the so when the Krayt Dragon starts spewing acid, disintegrating venom, this one man, it's when he's at the top of the cliff, this one man literally stands there stone still and just dies.
Oh, nice acid shower. Nothing to wake you up in the
Stands
morning.
there and dies. I'm like,
That's
what
so
are you
sad.
doing?
No. It's so sad. I was going to talk about the acid breath.
Not a care in the world.
I like how when they do fly up, like to try to get the Krayt Dragon to come back down, we see Mandalorian and Cobb Vanth take off, and we see how well Cobb Vanth actually knows how to use the jetpack and the armor, which I thought was really cool, because like he's not a Mandalorian, but yet he still is skilled enough in this. It doesn't fit him, so imagine if he had all this stuff, he knew how to use it, he'd probably be just as good as Mando. Probably not.
This is a theory I wanted to bring up. What if at the end of maybe not season 2, but in a later season or the end of this season, like in season 1 we saw Mandalorian, like he got the group, we're like, all right, we got the group together, let's go. What if he goes back to Cobb Vanth still having the Boba Fett armor, loans it back to Cobb Vanth, and we get to see Cobb Vanth in Boba Fett's armor again?
Why would he get him?
Well, in the end of the episode, we saw, I hope to cross paths again. I mean, just if he needs help.
I feel like that seemed a little
guy.
out of the blue, unless you were going to like actually bring him back again.
Yeah,
So
I don't know.
feel
There's
like
an
we
idea.
might see him back again. I don't think Mando's going to give it back. We know that, again, spoilers, we see Boba Fett at the end. I think he's going to take it back. I think
I hope so. I'd like to see Boba Fett.
I also like the callback to, Mandalorian just hits the jetpack and then he goes flying.
10
So
out
like
of
it's
10.
obviously a thing that they know will happen. Like if you hit it hard enough or in a specific spot, you're going to go flying.
It's a serious problem. The other thing I want to talk about is how we got to see how the rocket was used when he blew up the rest of the mining collective.
As they were going away in the car.
It was fun to see the workings, the inner workings of it. Twice.
We see it in Clone Wars and Rebels, but we haven't really seen it in live action before.
And we haven't seen. There was something else I wanted to mention. The patch job is cool. Just offhand, the patch job on the back of the jetpack where Han Solo broke it.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was cool. We see that the Krayt Dragon eats Mando, right, and then he eats the bantha. Rip bantha. Sad.
Yeah, hold on. Let's not get that far yet. Let's back it up to when they were using the crossbows. I liked how the Krayt Dragon wasn't coming out, right? And then the townspeople come in for the save with what's essentially German stick grenades that explode on impact. And it just was like, okay, the Tusken Raiders, they've done this before, they're doing it. The townspeople are just kind of watching. And then when the moment's there, they step up and they all become a unit that works together.
Teamwork, right?
Teamwork
And then
makes the
eventually
dream work.
comes out, and then
Then we see a few people get eaten, melted.
yeah, sad stuff, sad stuff. And then they detonate it and nothing happens. And in the beginning, I knew, I was like, that's not going to be it. It's not going to be that simple. But then, we fast forward, it comes back, it goes up to the mouth, starts spewing the acid. And I was like, oh, shoot, I wasn't expecting that. And then it comes back,
Okay, so what did you want to talk about with the acid?
not the acid, it was him getting eaten, because we see that Mando goes, yeah, Mando gets eaten by the thing, and then the bantha dies again. Rest in peace, bantha. Rest in peace. Oh, I have a lisp now. Rest in peace, bantha. But then we see him leave, right? We see him get out of the crate dragon. And what I was gonna say is maybe that's a way that Boba Fett got out of the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, so obviously we see that the acid we don't know if it was acid, stomach fluid, what was on Mando's armor, but let's assume it was acid.
Yeah, right. The same color.
Obviously, it takes 1,000 years to be digested in a Sarlacc. I say obviously, and I'm realizing that probably makes me sound like a nerd. Obviously, this is common knowledge.
Obviously, common
1,000 years to
knowledge.
be
Get with it.
digested in a Sarlacc.
You should know
and
this
then-
if you're here. It was
Nerds only.
Nerds only. Get out. Okay, go
as
ahead.
I was saying, it doesn't seem to be affecting Mando's armor at all. So I'm assuming the pitting and stuff happened inside the Sarlacc, and then he got eaten by the bantha, or the
The bantha ate him, dude. No,
yeah, bantha's just out here eating Sarlaccs. Like
that's the
bad.
real enemy. We never
that
know.
is the real enemy here. No, eaten by the crate dragon.
Yeah,
Now I'm assuming the crate dragon digests things faster, so he eats the Sarlacc. Boba Fett comes out of the Sarlacc, and he's still in a new stomach. Now, that's just imagine being Boba Fett at that moment.
just bigger
And
fish.
then we're assuming he was still in his armor, which is what kept him alive, anyways. And then the acid in the crate dragon isn't as toxic, or it doesn't affect the Beskar. And then he fights his way out, I guess. That's how it could be in obviously canon. But be sure to tune in for our Legends episode where we're gonna dive into
Boba
what
Fett's
happened
backstory.
in
We'll go ahead and we'll save that for a future date sometime soon. But when we see Boba Fett, we see he's all like scarred. We see his
it's been a rough ride since we last saw him.
he's been through a lot of stuff. But with the whole him getting out of the crate dragon, I want to do like a callback to season 1 episode. Is it episode 1? I want to say it's episode 1 where he goes with the blurg, right?
It's not episode 1. It's episode 2 or 3.
Is it?
What are you talking about? But there's no
with
blurg
the
in
blurg
episode
where
1.
he's like trying to learn to write it.
I think it's
I don't remember, but you know what I mean.
yeah,
You know
it
what I
might be one.
He's trying to learn to ride the blurg, and then Quill's telling him like, your great ancestor rode like the dragons, which were the mythosaurs, right? And then you see like the evolution of him barely learning how to ride a blurg versus him taking down a legitimate crate dragon.
Yes,
He's
this
grown so much.
obviously his signet is the Mudhorn.
Yeah.
Which ties into Baby Yoda using the Force, which helped him defeat the Mudhorn. It was a brutal battle, and that's obviously tied into the plot. But it would have been
Absolutely.
interesting to see if, I don't know, like a crate dragon signet is his now biggest accomplishment in regards of battle. I think. I don't know.
Just constantly being on the run and
Yeah,
just
but he's obviously constantly leveled up. He's leveled up.
yeah, he's leveled up. We got to wrap things up soon. We've got like
Soon.
10 minutes left, but real quick, I want to talk
Hey,
about.
We want to.
I've only got a few points left. When the crate dragon gets like blown up, right? We see the rib cage is upside down.
Oh yeah,
I thought
Sure
that was
enough.
cool because
You're-
like you'd assume
you're
that
right.
the more sturdy part of the rib cage would be on the the weaker spot because it's got to protect everything. Whereas up on the top, you see the bones are thinner because it's got the armor plating on top.
So
Unless
it's
it was just
a
the way it
tank
was
all the way
angled.
around.
Yeah, unless I was just unless
I mean,
it
it
was
could have spun underneath the ground. Also, I was
don't know.
watching again, and it looked like we saw the head and the body, but how much of the crate dragon was still under the ground that we never got to see?
While we're on the topic of the crate dragon, I wanted to talk
Are
about
we
the
gonna talk
pearl.
about the pearl?
The
Yes.
pearl, man. I
Pearl.
didn't know what that was at first because to me, I thought it was like a callback to the egg in season 1 with the
Me
Jawas where you
too.
get
I
the egg.
think
And I was like, is
everyone
that
thought it was
another
an egg.
egg? A
What's with
callback?
the eggs?
And then it was the pearl. And
Yes,
so what happens is when the crate dragon, because it eats all of the like the dirt and stuff, it works it through like the gizzards and stuff of the dragon, and
gizzards.
gizzards. Well, that's what it said. The
Oh,
gizzards is it works it through its body, and then it makes like these crystals, which were highly rare, and that's why they were so excited to find it. But the thing is that Jedi also use this in their lightsabers.
okay.
It had to
So
be cut properly, but it was really rare. But they would come in different colors. It was like green, red, blue. It was really cool, and white as well.
I heard something a little bit different was that the crate dragon was obviously eating so many rocks with living
Mm,
underground, he would uh he would ingest eventually a kyber crystal,
mm.
and then it would get synthesized inside his stomach. Now we know in Cobb Vanth says that the crate dragon had eaten some of the mining shipments, and I'm wondering if that's where he ate the kyber crystal.
That's also possibly true.
But as
Who knows?
I continue, so he eats a kyber crystal, and then it gets synthesized into a pearl, and it's the focusing crystal in a lightsaber.
Mm.
And then crate pearl lightsabers have the ability to break normal lightsabers. They're stronger. And then
I
Deep Legends, obviously we're going to touch lightly on Legends. We'll probably dive deeper in our Legends episode.
Another episode, yeah.
In a Crazy Legends comic, Boba Fett actually has a white lightsaber, and I think that was kind of a cool reference to Deep Legends comics with Boba Fett, and like an Easter egg that Boba Fett has this white pearl lightsaber in a comic.
And they definitely changed the design for the Great Dragon, because what I've seen in like Legends and stuff is that it looked more like a dragon. Like it had legs,
Like
and
a
then there was
giant lizard.
yeah, like a giant lizard. And then there was the Great. I can't remember if it was like the Grand. Or it was an older, more advanced version of the Great Dragon, like the stronger ones, which had like 10 legs, and it was insane. And what
Dang.
the Sand People were actually known to fight these guys in Legends, and it was kind of like a test of strength. Like if you can take one down and you get the crystal from it, then like you're recognized for taking one down.
Dang. And it
Let's-
seemed like they were so excited that not all crate dragons carried a pearl. It wasn't 100% you're going to get a pearl. It's
Yeah.
you're going to risk your freaking life, probably maybe die, and you only might get a
You only might get a
pearl.
pearl. So they found it, and then it's like, oh, we took down a Great Dragon, and there was a pearl plus. Let's go.
When they're
You know?
cutting up the dragon, I thought it was so weird how they did it. In my notes, I wrote much poke because it just looks like they're poking it. They're just like poke,
Much
Poke.
poke. But let's move on to Boba Fett. In our last few minutes here, I want to talk about that just a bit. Boba Fett. We see him, and everybody freaked out. This is, I'm sure, still a huge topic point for everybody on the internet right now in the Star Wars community. Is Boba Fett? What is he doing there?
Fett. Yes, this is. It was insane. Like we all crossed our fingers, had good idea it was coming,
Mhm.
but it wasn't confirmed. And when it happened, I was just like, yeah.
I remember I
you know
saw
that
it.
meme with the guy that's like, yeah. And I was
Yeah.
like, that exactly. It was so
That was
cool.
awesome. Yeah, I think I audibly yelled, "Let's go, it's Boba Fett!" when I was watching it, and my family was like, "What?" But it was so cool to see, and this went over my head until just recently when I rewatched it, is I never realized what he was wearing. And you told me about this, but I didn't believe you because I didn't see it. He's wearing what? You won't leave me alone. I didn't see it. But we see he's wearing the Tusken Raider clothes. And he's got the Tusken Raider, the staff as well as the gun. I never noticed that. I think I was just too excited about it. It was Boba Fett, but he's I
Exactly.
don't, what is
He's
he
got
doing?
Tusken Raider robes.
Obviously he's looking at Mando, so
weapons.
he knows he's got the armor.
Okay.
Hmm.
See.
Yeah.
I think he's been watching his armor the entire time since he got out of wherever he was. The Jawas probably saved him. He sold him his armor, and I think he's been living. It makes the most sense because no one in town has seen him. It makes the most sense. He's been living with the Tusken Raiders. Now there was, I think it was New Rockstars. I saw this theory for the first time. There's 2 instances we see a Tusken Raider that could very well be Boba Fett. Obviously, they're all masked up. The first one is when we see Mandalorian traveling to Mos Pelgo, and there's this Tusken Raider sitting a little bit off from the fire, watching Mando. The second time, we have Cobb Vanth with us. We're talking about the Krayt Dragon and how to kill it. And then there's the sentry out in the distance. We see him, and it zooms in on this guy, and he turns around to check out Mando, and then it pans into Mando. I think it's a bit suspicious that it panned into that guy and then back to Mando.
I didn't notice that. I'm just slow apparently, but
I was looking for it, so that's why I noticed
that's
it.
probably why. But that's cool. And what is he doing? Is he spying on him just because maybe this guy can track me down to the guy who has my armor? Maybe the moment Mando heard about the guy that had armor was the moment that Boba Fett also learned, hey, this guy's got my armor. Or maybe the Cyclops guy was planted there by Boba Fett. Maybe that's where he got his intel from. So that the Mandalorian would go realize, hey, this dude's got my armor. This guy's got Mandalorian armor. He shouldn't have that. Give it back. And then Boba Fett could probably take it off of him and be like, I am a Mandalorian.
That's a good idea, but why wouldn't Boba Fett seek him out before he left Tatooine if that was his entire goal, was to get his armor back?
That's a fair point.
I put a hole in your theory.
You totally did, man. You totally did. Anyways, what do you think? Shot down, dude.
I don't know. It's definitely a path to a lot of theories and a lot of different ways it could go.
A lot of future episodes, eh?
A lot of future. Exactly. I was gonna repeat what you said, and I was just like,
exactly
what you said. Anyway,
I think we should wrap things up. What do you think?
Yes, I agree. I think we
covered everything.
Yeah. So obviously, let us know what you guys think, what you thought of the episode.
Yeah, follow,
any
subscribe.
questions you have.
Put them down in the comments below. Check us out on Instagram, and make sure to go check out our episode's gonna be coming out on Wednesday. The Wednesday
after this episode.
Wednesday the 9th. Yeah. Wednesday the 9th of December for our Cobb Vanth breakdown and Legends. We're going to be covering all of that stuff. Make sure to go follow us on Instagram, like I said. Subscribe, share with friends, spread the word. This is our very first episode too, so we're really excited to have you guys along for the adventure.
Yeah, I think that covers it. May the Force be with you. I wanted to take a minute and send a huge shout out to Ashton Thane for the music he provided for us. Go check him out on Instagram. He's got some sick music over there.